Please welcome to the stage, once again, Kathleen Tandy.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm sorry the break was short, but I promise you throughout the next couple days, we'll make sure to get you guys longer breaks because we know this is a fantastic time for us to talk. The energy is fantastic. We want to reconnect. We want to have those conversations. But we also want to now double click into the plays. You heard Sumit talk about our new go-to-market model. You heard Stephen Elliott talk about how there's an opportunity for VMware to help simplify our portfolio and rationalize it, make it easier for you to be able to take to your customers. So the rest of the afternoon will be focused on these plays, double-clicking into them, their differentiation, their value proposition for the market, how we are supporting you in being able to take these plays as we are organizing all the aspects about VMware as one VMware behind them. And to kick us off for the rest of this afternoon and introduce this plays, I'm pleased to introduce my colleague, Vittorio Villarengo, Vice President, Cross Cloud Services.
Everybody is saying that I'm happy to be back here, right? I'm gonna immortalize this moment on social media with the leader that is the most dedicated to the partners, your biggest advocate internally at every meeting that I know. It's Kathleen here. Here you go. Let's say hi to Twitter and
Wonderful.
To Elon Musk. So thank you. So today, I want to talk about the why and put a little more meat to the bone that Sumit and Raghu talked about, right? So why cross-cloud services? Why the three plays? And most importantly, how these work together, right? And how our customers can use different services to implement these use cases. And to talk about the why of cross-cloud services, let's talk about apps. Everybody has been talking about apps. To me, it looks like IT is in this always on a quest to keep up with developers. Right? Developers go out there, they have a mind of their own, they're the rules of the world, they pick a cloud, they build application, and then the stack follows, right? The professional service follows, and the management stack and all that. And right now, it's all about application. Why? Because we need to support an increasingly distributed workforce, and the customers that working with you are building applications are the ones that are making more money, right? And if you're working with customers that are now building new applications, stop, because they're probably not going to be in business a few years from now. And where does this happen? It happens through the path of least resistance, which is the cloud, the public cloud. In the last 10 years, developers go off, they create a virtual machine, they create a Kubernetes cluster, they build applications, and then good luck with that. But our customers, our joint customers, that's not the world they live in, because they still have the private cloud. It's not going away. That's where they run the application that actually run their businesses, right? And then increasingly in retail and manufacturing and healthcare, you have the emergence of edge, where we're bringing the computing closer to where it is consumed, right? And these bring incompatible stacks. But this is still a simple picture, because if you double click, the public cloud is actually a multitude of different stacks. Right? And what we find is that 73% of three-quarters of our customers are multi-cloud today, whether they admit it or not. Some people are in denial still. But if you have a private cloud and one cloud, to me, you're multi-cloud. And you're starting to get all these benefits, but also starting to experience the challenges. So what are the challenges? Well, the challenge is that each of these clouds will bring their own development stack, their own management stack. Right? And then as you move up in the stack, they have their networking stack, their security stack, and so on and so forth. So as Raghu said, we believe that this is the architecture. It's not going to get better. You know, anybody believes that this is going to slow down? Of course not, because that's where we get innovation. So we need to tame this environment. We believe this is the most heterogeneous environment that IT has ever seen. Right? And I've been with VMware on and off for 14 years. When I walk in through the engineering aisle, what I see engineers that have one DNA, a very strong DNA, which is turning heterogeneity into a competitive advantage. Think about it, right? What did we do in the private cloud? We took a bunch of different CPUs, a bunch of different storage, a bunch of different hardware, and through the hypervisor and virtualization, we created a level of abstraction. That level of abstraction unlocked tremendous simplicity and growth for you and your customers, right? In the cloud, that layer is taken. It's being commoditized. So we need a new way to simplify this very heterogeneous environment. So last year at VMworld, we introduced VMware Cross Cloud Services. So VMware Cross Cloud Services is a portfolio of cloud-native services that create this new level of abstraction to simplify our customers' build, manage, run, secure, and access any application across any cloud. And the reason why we believe that we are the right company to solve this is that we have the right DNA, and we made investments over the last 5 years. Solving this puzzle is not cheap. And so as we bring these services, these cloud-native services to market, to simplify how we build and manage applications, we do it in a way that is consistent across all the clouds. And that's where the simplicity comes in. Level of abstraction, pull the resources, simplify, allow people to move faster. And we talk about these use cases, and then why did we choose these 3 main use cases? And the way to think about this, there's been a little bit of questions about what is multi-cloud, what is cross-cloud services, what is the difference? There's a very simple way to think about it. Multi-cloud is the market, is the problem that we are solving. And cross-cloud is VMware approach to solving that problem. And these are the main use cases that our customers use cross-cloud services to address. And the reason why we chose this is threefold. One, they line up with the modern application. We talked about applications, right? These line up with the way you build applications. You build applications, you run them, and then you give them to end users to do something with them, right? The second reason that aligns very, very nicely with the transformation priorities of our customers. And finally, you will get the full force of the VMware go-to-market investment and resources line up to these use cases so that you can leverage that. Now, I know that each of you have your own sales plays, your own way to go to market, and that's fine, right? But the more those go-to-markets align with this, and the more leverage you're gonna get from VMware. So the way to think about this, again, another teachable moment, is that the stuff up top, these cross-cloud services, is the product and solution that we collectively sell and implement for our customers. And the areas of value for customers on the bottom is how we together go to market and solve customer problems. So now, let me go into the meat of the presentation, which is how do these things fit together, right? How the cross-cloud services are used by customers to implement these use cases. And later in this morning and this afternoon, the GMs of these various groups will come and put more details behind it. But I call this deck the theory of everything. Everything that you always wanted to know about VMware multi-cloud and never dared to ask. So here we go. So the first area of value is how to scale application operations. So if you're working with any customers out there that is implementing application, you see them standing up DevOps team, SecOps team, and then a platform team that is designed to set up the environment for developers to build their applications. Right? This is a new area that is emerging in our customers. The little secret about this is that when you want to take an application from development to the production, it's 50 steps. If you multiply these 50 steps by multiple clouds, forget it. It's really complicated. So our application platform with tons of TKO, the first thing we allow you to set up any Kubernetes distribution across any cloud. Boom, very simple, done. Once you have set up the environment so developers can go and do their thing and build applications, we give you a single pipeline, right? So that the developer can stay focused on what they do best, which is writing code, and the operation team has this pipeline that brings all the open source system requires to implement that application, make sure there's the latest version that is secure, right? So you are not distributing malware, and then you can feed it across any cloud. So I was talking to Cerner, one of our partners and customer, and they initially went with AWS or Azure, one of the two, and then for business reasons, they switched to another cloud provider. Their operation team, it took them 4 hours to change deployment environment, 4 hours. This is the kind of results you get when you bring simplicity across multiple clouds. And then once a day, you want to know how the application are performing so that you can optimize it. So you need observability and visibility to the application. And then, guess what's that next thing? You need to make sure that those Kubernetes distributions are secure. So you can use Cloud Health to make sure that the posture of those Kubernetes clusters is secure and that the cost doesn't get out of control. So, and you're going to see this theme recurring, right? Our security is a big differentiator across all that we do, right? Because it allows us, we have a very unique vantage point that I'm going to talk about in a second that allows us to see events across the entire stack, in this case, from the Kubernetes all the way up. And finally, with security, you also need, think about it, these applications out there, these microservices are the new endpoints. And just like we do security for endpoints, and we secure the devices, and et cetera, we need to secure the APIs, the surface of these applications, and then secure the communication between them, so only the service that can talk to another service actually does. And so as you can see, we really thought through the whole life cycle of a modern application natively in the cloud. Our cross-cloud service is all about our commitment to the native public cloud. No, we don't need our hypervisor in the cloud to add value to our customers. Let me repeat that. We don't need our hypervisor in the cloud to add value to our customers. So we believe that this is the most comprehensive platform to build modern application across multiple clouds. The second area that we talked about is how to accelerate enterprise cloud transformation. So over the last 20 years, customers that trust you and us together as the platform to run their enterprise applications with the enterprise class reliability and services, level of service that enterprise expect. Right? So over the last 4 or 5 years, we took that very high performance, highly optimized environment, and we moved it across all clouds. So using our VMware Cloud, you can literally click and deploy this very infrastructure across all your clouds. And the advantages are obvious, right? Because all your professional service team, your customers know this environment. They know how to operate it. They know how to stand up a cloud using vRealize, and build that cloud and bring together storage, networking, and compute to build the cloud. And once you have the same environment on both sides, you can easily move applications and migrate to the cloud without refactoring because it's the same environment. Right? So I was talking to S&P Global, and they're a poster child for this. They shut down 2 data centers in a few months, moved their application with no downtime. They created a virtual networks across on-prem and the cloud, and vMotion the application to the cloud. And then the next step is, how do they manage it? Well, they can use vRealize, that the thing they already know how to use, to build that cloud. What is the cloud? It's not just somebody else's computer. Cloud is about the operating model. How do you automate as much as possible of your operation, right? And then with Cloud Health, again, you can manage your cost. So here you see how the same service can be used to solve the modern application, like Cloud Health. We saw Cloud Health for containers, and now we see Cloud Health for the vSphere stack in the cloud. So you can manage your application, know what's going on, and then remember, not only is VMware Cloud the fastest way with the best ROI, as you're going to hear from Mark later today, to move your application in the cloud, but once you're there, you can use Tanzu to modernize the application. So you can take a monolithic application, turn it into microservices. So it's not just about migration, it's about migration and modernization of applications. And then security, right? The reason why our security approach is so unique is that because of virtualization, we see everything that happens in the infrastructure. Then we have workload security, and then we all the way up to the networking stack. And so when you're looking at an event in the networking stack that looks fine, but then you correlate that with what's happening in the workload, and you realize that's actually an attack. There's no other company in the world that has that vantage point to be able to see security challenges across the whole stack, from the infrastructure all the way to the end-user computing. So we talk about building new application natively, Kubernetes, microservices in the cloud. Then we talked about how to use VMware Cloud to take your enterprise workloads, move them to the cloud. The third area is end-user computing, and this is really where heterogeneity boggles the mind, right? Because now you're bringing in networks, you're bringing in devices, and usually our customers, what do they do to solve this problem? They use a lot of different point products. And when you use point products have seams between them, and so you have silos within silos, and that increases complexity. So our approach, our unified approach to the digital workspace allows us to support any work model, whether it's hybrid, from home, in the office, corporate on-device, BYOD, and by giving them access to all this, secure the endpoint, and give them single sign-on and an application store so that end user can get to their application and get work done really fast. So then, because of our unified approach, when something goes wrong, it's easier for us to identify it because we don't have to chase that event across multiple stacks, and then we can automate, whenever possible, automatically fix the problem. And of course, because of the unified approach, we can bring devices and user on board much quicker. And then finally, in an environment like this, you have to assume a zero trust approach. That everybody outside of the firewall is a bad person, is a bad guy or gal, right? And so with our zero trust network approach, we can go and not only secure the device, but also understand the context of what the user is trying to do to figure out if this person really allowed to access these backend applications. So as you can see, I mean, we really spent a lot of time thinking through all these challenges and we didn't invent it overnight, right? We invested by buying back Tanzu, Cloud Health, and then increasingly the priority for our engineering team is to always prioritize the native public cloud in the priority of what they're building in the engineering team. And these are the stories, you just heard it earlier today, that you'll see coming from VMware more and more, right? VMware is the glue that holds together our multi-cloud story. And, we can build application faster than ever before using Tanzu. And Raghu talked about our very unique place in the marketplace, right? As the company has a platform approach, so that across all the things that we talked about, but that works across multiple clouds. But I'll give you another way to think about our differentiator. Our differentiator is that while we believe that this is the most comprehensive solution for multi-cloud, the good news is that your customers can adopt it at their own pace because these are integrated but loosely coupled. So they can start, their biggest pain point is building applications. They can start with Tanzu and Cloud Health to manage cost. If their biggest priority is shutting down the data center, well, they can start with VMware Cloud and move to the cloud and then modernize, right? And because, unlike pure cloud providers that only make money if customers are over here, we together make money across the spectrum so customers can adopt this at their own pace, which I think is very, very powerful. We can go to a customer, sit down and say, let's figure out where you are in your journey. Based on your journey and your business priority, here's the solution that will deliver the most value for you. So here's the opportunity. Raghu talked about the exponential growth of application, exponential growth of the cloud over the last few years, over the next few years. IDC also reiterated that. Think about this from an ecosystem perspective. We looked at all this different stuff in the data center. And if you had to build solutions around all this, it would have been very costly for you. And it was going to be very, very hard to pick a winner. But because of software-defined data center approach, you built upon our APIs, you developed services around us, and we unleashed, since 2011, when we introduced software-defined data center, 10 years of growth. So you can think about cross-cloud services as software-defined data center 10 years ago, right? You have an opportunity now, you have a choice in the cloud. You can either go and try to add value to any of these providers and figure out all the differences, or let us do the heavy lifting with our cross-cloud services and build upon it. And we believe that this will unlock growth for all of us for the next foreseeable future. So there it is, everything you ever wanted to know about our cloud strategy and didn't dare to ask in 15 minutes.